say this piece because even if you have a pet dog, but there's a halacha, if you have something that you never give for the animal to eat because it's too expensive, that doesn't make an animal feed. Even though today our dog, the mother says an interesting thing. The mother says that the Rabbi Shamar Elchonon on a dog because it has not much to eat. Not an elegant. I can tell you. I used to live right next to a Petco, whatever it's called.
I know.
Anyway, so that's it. Ava b'chul is the Srs05. It says Mitoras Banosh Yuchal Achinu Kluvim. Some is also Achila with the Imhem Mechunim on the Chinu Kluvim. If it's made, let's say you bought dog food, which is Nevedis, that's okay. It's not Muktzeh. If you bought food for the Kigan, Nevedis and Kekutza, with the Tauber, Kisham Mechunim Behemoth, Be'enom the Kluvim. If it's not made to animal feed, why? Machmas Sina Shein Sin Ela B'Shabbos. Kan Mashkin Shazurim in Apeis Maleim Shabbos Sin B'Shkirim B'Miyim. Let me explain this. If we don't have this anymore, but there's a difference in Shiurim. If you have grapes, a lot of grapes, and it oozes out the juice, you're not allowed to drink that juice. Because if you're going to drink it, you might squeeze the grapes. Squeezing grapes is an icing. So if you have grapes, which are very ripe, and just laying on the table, and then the juice oozes out by itself, that liquid is Muktzeh. So you're saying if you would never give it to an animal, it's Muktzeh. It's noilet, it's Muktzeh b'Shabbos. Just wouldn't give it to the animal. You're not interested in feeding. At least once upon a time, you're not interested in feeding grape juice to the dog. Geen beter, Shenode Basham Sira Bachila by Miyam, geen goede Shnech Mishab Shusonia, Helkiotzben, Abishu Halachilukum, Komikim Shen Omnim Lekaf. Something that's not made for animal feed, even though you cannot eat it, it's Muktzeh. He's trying to say, it's based on the Gemara, there's a Rav that do not think that since, I cannot eat it, but the animal could eat it. Really, a dog could drink the mashkin shuzovi.
There's no noilet for an animal?
There's no noilet for an animal. Because I'll only ask it for you. Okay. So let's say an egg was born on Shabbos, the dog could eat it. So, but it's Muktzeh because no one gives eggs to dogs, no one gives mashkin shuzovi. You don't plan to feed the dogs with it. So if you see that, then it's Muktzeh. That's what we're saying. It becomes a Muktzeh. See, the only Muktzeh, but the Rabbi, I remember I explained this, began to explain last week, the food is very hard to become Muktzeh. Because even if it's raw meat, since there are a few people eat raw meat, it's not Muktzeh. It's very interesting. Raw meat is not Muktzeh. Raw fish today is not Kiddush, not Muktzeh. Honestly, because it's sushi. But the mother did say that fish, raw fish was now. So anyways, he's saying that food, not only that, I explained last week, if you take seeds and put them into the ground, then it's also not Muktzeh, even though you plant it right now, if you pick up the seeds, it's okay. The only time food could become Muktzeh if it's unedible of an issa. You cannot eat it Shabbos, or it's raw, that no one ever eats it. I imagine today raw meat is Muktzeh. No one eats raw meat. I was told recently it's not so true. I was told there are people who eat raw meat in America.
There are Hungarians that eat raw meat. Hungarians that eat raw ground meat.
Yeah, in Hungary,
In France, they eat raw meat. They slice the meat very thin.
I was told in Germany. Meat, yeah. So today, and I'll tell you the truth is, it used to be, don't meet me your eye from Japan. Today, soon there's going to be a Japan restaurant here. Today the world became a small world.
Do you think bottle diet, you have to have a certain amount of people?
No, by food, if you have a handful of people, it's good enough.
So if a guy gives mashke to his dog, that's okay. He gives wine to eliminate.
It's got to be Muktzeh wine first.
Oh, I say Muktzeh wine.
Even if people eat raw meat, but frozen meat.
Frozen meat is not Muktzeh because you can defrost it very quickly.
But people eat that was like
fact
just
that it's
thawed
frozen,
out?
fact that it's frozen doesn't make it muktzeh because you could defrost meat quite quickly.
And you would use that as thawed out meat.
If you let the cold water run on it for a long time, it defrosts very quickly.
You said the dough last week.
What's that?
Dough, right?
Those books are not
Dough.
not a kid.
It's not a dough. Well, dough people don't eat if they don't eat it. I don't know what goes on in America today. If they don't eat it, then it's muktzeh.
So it's only if it's incapable of being eaten on Shabbos by everybody, and if it was born on Shabbos.
No. If no one, let's say today, no one would eat raw meat for some reason, just accept that. They say it's dangerous. So whatever, if they don't eat it, then it's muktzeh.
I'm not
But
saying
since certain people do eat the raw meat, the Gemara times, the Gemara says meat is not muktzeh. Fish is muktzeh. Fish, the Rashi says no one eats raw. Imagine. Meat, they eat raw. Right? It's a verkehrte Welt, you know. Fish. I was just saying, but it depends on the reality, whatever it is. If it's so today, it's hard to say it's muktzeh. No, this is very important because you have things in the freezer, and you know you have the meat standing in the way, the ice cream, and it's often depends who's in charge of the freezer. The teenager's in charge, and everything's all over. So you're saying, so you want to have to move away the meat. So meat, raw meat, is not muktzeh really.
So what did you say about the egg that was created on Shabbos?
But if it's an egg that's born on Shabbos is unedible for a person. Beit Shnod, the first Mishnah, Beit Shnod, the B'yanter is awesome. You're not allowed to eat it.
People eat raw eggs all the time.
No, it's not the point. You're not allowed to eat eggs. An egg that's born is also for human consumption. So now it's born on Shabbos, it's special all over. And now, but a dog can eat it, but you will never give eggs for a dog.
And if you would give an egg to a dog, the whole concept of muktzeh means that it has to be designated from before Shabbos to be eaten on Shabbos. This wasn't in the world from before Shabbos, so it was never designated for anything.
It's an egg that's born. We need a special halacha to make it muktzeh, also to eat. We have to go into the separate because even if you hold it's a whole Hilchos.
Okay, so that's
It's a
right.
whole Hilchos. Okay. אבל דו שאיסה חוסי גם בכל עם שיש להטר אחר זמן כלחודש מיתה לטלטו for the בארץ ישראל. It's a big Kiddush that Rav says, based on I forgot who this is based on. The Sefter. Bring down. You know, I have to explain Chodesh, even though it's very interesting. The Shulchan Rav says you should be makbid on Chodesh.
He says we're not makbid.
Rav says befurish. Rav Nukas basically says you have to be makbid. So this is some said why in Babish not makbid? I don't know. I'm saying that there's a Chodesh is that anything that is a new crop, you know, Oimer, you know, the Oimer brought where we count the sweetest Oimer. Mochetz HaPesach, the first day Chanamoyed in Etzisol, we brought the Oimer allowed to eat anything from the new crop. Anything that was planted after the Oimer, all those you cannot eat till this coming Pesach. So anything that grew after the Oimer, which barley has a problem, usually barley is very quickly a problem, you're not allowed to eat. Now there's a big machloikas, we paskin in the B'chitzoros, the minig of the Chassidim is not to be makbid for some reason, but I don't want to go to Arichas, but the Chassidim have a set that the Shamta said you be serving on the Bach, so the Chassidim, not just Kabbalah. And the rest of the Chassidim, the B'chitzoros are not makbid. But Kapona, so it's the Chodesh is up winter after Pesach, but the Isser is a long time. I mean, you can have flour, you're not going to eat it till Pesach. It says, "Aber du bist just beginnen gaan met golap, shesh lehet derach kan chodesh, shekiv shnim shechzman and sirah harbe. It's a long time. That it oimed gaan met toch chazman lachila behemoths nimker nachrem. Since it's made to give for the animals and sell for the goyim. So again, if it's not that way, you are makbid. Many literature are very makbid on chodesh. So they. If they would have in the house and they put it away to use it after Pesach, and they're not for animal use, then it will be really muktzeh. Understand? But it really depends on the owner. Later on, the muktzeh depends. If you are the type, you hold it's usher, you don't want to eat it, you're not going to give it, you don't want to give it to anyone, you're so makbid, there are different levels of makbid. I tell people, makbid, you ought to give it to someone. I mean, I've been asked by the Babbage all the time, we're makbid cholav yisrael, can I give the milk chocolate to someone who's not makbid? I says, if they're not makbid, you're allowed to give it to them. If someone's not makbid in Yoshon, even though you're makbid, you can give them. But there are some verbrennte Litwische who hold on, it's us. But anyways, the Rav says, the idea of this Muktzeh is the same idea. Since they would give it away, but if you know you never give those food away, then it's Muktzeh. Okay, it's very simple. Okay, let's move on. Yesh od Muktzeh v'och namash k'mishav yom Muktzeh mach des mitzvah. We'll see Zbamis into the Shlam Ches and to Pivi Dal. The Al Muktzeh mach des mitzvah. The Mushan Esrig is Muktzeh. And Noi Sukkah is Muktzeh. That's it doesn't go into this, we'll leave it for later. So the Rav says, Nimtzu kom in the Muktzeh sirim chamishu. Muktzeh mach nes chsorim kis, that's very expensive. Muktzeh mach nes gufoi, that's Muktzeh like a stone. Muktzeh mach nes iser hanu al chile, food, but you cannot have any, eat it and have a direct benefit. Muktzeh mach nes mitzvah, designated for mitzvah. Muktzeh mach nes shoi, usa ben shmushi zubas and shini. Something that ben shmushi couldn't move, we'll learn it's machini. We all know that. No, this halacha I mentioned last week, and some of you had a hard time accepting, that a fan, I hold is not Muktzeh. And I looked around this today, and I see that our whole all is Muktzeh. Fan that's working. Are you allowed to move the fan? This is one of the most common questions. Summer, the fan is blowing, you want to push down the button, you should turn or make it stand or move it this way, that way. Is a fan Muktzeh? And the reason why I claim the fan is not Muktzeh, almost everyone agrees that a watch with the battery is not Muktzeh. It's already universal. I asked this, anyone who had, people don't want to wear watches, but women wear watches, jewelry watches, and it's 90% of the watches today work with batteries. So you see, just because it has a battery doesn't make it Muktzeh. Because why should it make it Muktzeh? It's, this lasts a long time, the battery in a watch, and there's no reason it should be Muktzeh. So a fan that's working, why should it be Muktzeh? Your alarm clock at night. Now it depends. Remember, I explained last night. If it's a very cheap one, you don't care. Sometimes it's very expensive. You run into touch it in some case. But if you don't care, use it as you leave your safer behind you. Put Solomon. You really don't care. So then you're allowed to turn to see what time it is. I do it all the time. Get up in the middle of the night, and it's okay. You understand, because it's made to show the clock, and it's plugged in, and it's made to move around. You can't rip it out of the thing, the plug, but it's made to move around. So it's not Muktzeh. So a fan, when it's working, is not Muktzeh. It's working the whole time. Why should it be Muktzeh?
Often people say it's Muktzeh. They're probably afraid they're going to press a button or something by accident. That's not Muktzeh. That's a chashash.
I saw go down. I saw looked it up in one of
The button that makes it turn, is that Muktzeh?
It's
The motor is going
the
to
holder.
either way.
No, it's not a mechanical thing. It's mechanical. It's not electrical. It's mechanical. It does nothing.
Like the motor's going to stand the whole
Right.
time. You don't cut, it's just.
Right. So that's what you got to do.
Rabbi Yosef said it's not Muktzeh.
It's not Muktzeh.
If you might do something, does that make it Muktzeh? You might touch the button.
Well, that we have to create the issa. Not so easy to do that. We have no right. We could advise people not to do it. And there's a lot in Shiurim that we're not allowed to wear gloves on Shabbos in the cold weather.
Outside.
Here we don't know what's going on.
Cold outside.
I know it's. I'm not cold ever, but I just saw the dog walking with a sweater, and I said, "What? Are you cold?" No, Baruch Hashem, but in Toronto, you come from Toronto, you know what cold is. So the question was, and the time the Shulchan goes to look at such cold places, in Ashkenazim. So the question is, are you allowed to wear gloves? So it's the Chayim want to say you shouldn't wear it, because you might take it off and you shake hands, because that's what we used to do. But that means we cannot tell you it's awesome. We can give you advice. Don't wear it, because the probability is you might take it off while you're walking. Scratch yourself or such another thing. Same thing with many of these watches, when it was these, watches. That's coming. Someone just told me recently that it's becoming new fashion again, these watches. So remember, years ago, the one who says don't wear it. We can't tell you. We cannot create new asir. It's just advisable because you got so used to it. So that's the
But if
problem.
there's an error, then there's no problem with the glove.
See, wearing the watch, even without error, is no problem. We'll get to it one day. The rule is something that's worn, your glasses is not a problem. So unfortunately, a hearing aid is not a problem. And belt is levush. But anything that's worn on your body all the time becomes bothered to the body. That's a mafurish Gemara. That means the Gemara says that a person, that a Vodden used to carry on himself a seal. Eved Avrom Anochi. The Gemara says that's not called carrying. Why? He's not very proud of it. The Gemara says that a ring, which a man's ring with harachosim, is not good carrying. And it's not because it's a chashiv, because something that you wear on your body all the time, that's not called carrying.
But what if the ring is made for Muktzeh?
Yeah, but it's worn, just that makes it even more interesting, what you just pointed out.
Still,
See, even though it's made to, they used to wax it with the thing, but still, since it's worn on the body all the time, it's not Muktzeh, you're allowed to wear it Shabbos. So something that you wear, doctors ask me this all the time, they're allowed to walk, one of the doctors, my neighbor, sometimes they walk to see this because when a patient, you don't have to, but if it's for them much easier to come with their badge into the hospital, they should see their doctor. You know, even before there was a native.
Sunglasses?
Because it's worn all the time.
What about sunglasses?
Sunglasses is the same thing. They can be allowed to wear sunglasses. The reason they tell you not to wear it because it's a habit of taking it off.
It's like the gloves.
It's like the gloves. So but you can't say it's off. So we just tell you it's
When there's
advisable
no-
not to.
There's no doubt. If there's an Erev, there's not a problem. The problem is you might carry it.
Gum
I tell you
is
the
a
truth
gum.
is, a Lubavitcher once asked me, Lubavitcher lady asked me this question. And in Kronite, she didn't wear sunglasses. Her father left her. Here, there's anyways an Erev, you have to be machman, she doesn't, not saying on the Erev. So you have to ask a Lubavitcher rabbi, don't I?
These are good questions. How am I? We should know these questions.
So anything that is on, like my light in a room, I can move the lamp around.
Yeah, really, move the lamp. We'll get to it later, why someone make more big a fuss by a lamp. But really, a lot of movement on there. I remember as a young child, there was a famous Usak Narach Broya, he was the Rav of Washington Heights, if you remember Rav Broya, the old Rav Broya. And he said, a big Chiddush, Shiurim used to know about this. If you left, Shiurim are clumsy, to leave the light on, the lamp on. So he said, you can take the lamp, as long as it's the long extension, put it into the closet and close the door. He said it's a Kedish Nachtalisa, and we need the mukim because we can't sleep.
What about ladies' gloves? I've heard, is that different?
It's no difference.
Okay.
Just women, they're more makeup for some
I
reason.
think in Paradise, the women wear the gloves.
Yeah, there's a many. I grew up the same way. The men didn't wear gloves and the women didn't wear gloves. I grew up in New York and
there's no
Williamsburg,
difference.
not Crown Heights, and they did the same thing.
In English, there's a mice with Amaral of Prague. I think he married his wife Pedal. Like some mice with the gloves. I don't remember this. It's a line of mice. That she was you can good learn something with the gloves. I don't remember the story.
Is there anything that's plugged in that you can move?
But like, if the clock will be a some kiss, that be very, very expensive.
No, not because of the sun, no, because of the fact that it's plugged in.
So what Tauber saying doesn't matter.
I don't know, maybe I don't know. Trying to think, if it's something that's used, the clock in your room, and I don't think anything. There's some want to say the clock is very expensive. It's very expensive. You don't want to move around anyway delicately. Should be a kiss.
So your iPhone that you plug in, and let's say it's on a coffee table, and you need the space, then you
That's
should
what we saw last week. Even without plugging in, it's a kiss.
What if it's not an
iPhone. Yes.
What if it's not an iPhone? It's a cheap phone.
And then it's not. I
Can
can be
you open it and check the
I
time?
no. If you have young children, you let them play with your phone.
Yeah.
Then it's not an expensive phone. Or you don't care. I have a very rich guy.
I don't care about the money. I care the fact they might press or call somebody.
That's enough. That's chesed kiss. Chesed kiss means I don't want him to a knife, a shechita knife. Why is it chesed kiss?
Might hurt himself.
No, I don't want him to make a pagam on the knife. Shechita knife has to be very, very sharp and no pagam. So I don't want anyone to play. I myself don't want to use it for anything. I might make a pagam. That's enough to make a chassan kiss. You don't want the children to play. They might push the wrong button, erase all the information you got. That's a chassan kiss. You don't want it to be played around. They're wrong. I watch most people smartphones. They don't let children play. My wife, till now she doesn't let the grandchildren play because she started a cheap phone. Now she got a better phone. No. The grandchildren can't. No. Not this time, no. Yeah, because it's more expensive. She has a lot of information on it.
She gives us the old one.
She gives us the old one because they know
the other one
doesn't work. Okay.
A drill, plug-in drill, what was that called?
Okay.
A drill.
Yeah, but that's not a keli. That's a keli shmachtaris. He's talking about, let's say, a fan is okay, and
You want to use the fan.
we're talking about you want to use the fan. You only should blow it. You blow away from you. Okay. Let's see. This is the Rav Shitta. I mentioned last week already a little bit about this. This is very famous. All the G'dola Achronim after the Rav quote this Rav. The Rav opinion is that in order to make something chasar kiss has to be a keli shemanach tares. If you have a svarim closet, you will never move because you know it's going to move. It's going to. Let's say this svarim kodesh, you'll never move it. It's too big and it's going to break. It's going to break and not break. You just this ends was probably from Pesach to Pesach, maybe even after Pesach. It doesn't get moved, and it's movable, I imagine. So the Rav says it's not Muktzeh. Has to be, even though you want it there, I plan to leave it there as long as who knows how long. It doesn't. Just because of that, it's not Muktzeh. It's only Muktzeh if it's a chasor and kiss. Let's say by moving it, the whole thing is going to fall apart. But just by, it has to be something a chasor and kiss and a chasor and loss of money, something very expensive.
Why are you considering this a kiddush malachta l'isa to begin?
No, it's not. But let's say you would never want to move it because if you move it, the whole thing would fall
That's a
apart.
kiddush malachta l'heter,
Right.
kiss, which is not a problem.
Yeah, but now you wouldn't want to move it. It means right now you don't want to move it because it's going to break. It's delicate for some reason. So it could break. So then it's Muktzeh. You just don't never going to touch
It
it.
has to be a kiddush malachta l'isa.
But that's because he says even though you never move it, let's say you don't move it because you want it to be there. If picture on the wall, you want it to be there. The Rav says it's not Muktzeh. Just because I want it to be there, it's not Muktzeh. But something, let's say you don't want to touch because it breaks, so that itself makes it chasar kiss, the breakage. You understand what I'm saying? So that's you just don't. He says, "Kol do sheshet tonis kelefel migudel v'kuvid habu litzvat l'shem keli liloy machus godol machus kol v'yed an even gedoyla, a huge rock, a kli gedoyla. If it's a keli, film matele b'sura b'nei yudam. 10 people have to carry it. Kim yesh tonis keli come. Shiach de la taltot eise tashmi, it's made to move around, but there she's bar, nit de la taltot of Shabbos. Finish Shiach to the taltot. So you have to have a big beam, 10 people.
A beam is muktzeh.
Yeah, boom, generous. So that's it's miyuchat for something. There's a famous Gemara in Masechtas Kedushin. Why it has 10 people. There was a Gemara that says that Amr Chasida redeemed 2 girls from captivity. And he put him upstairs, Yad Yeshiva, and he put him upstairs, on the attic, put him on the attic, and there was a window, and they took the ladder, moved it away, he had the Yeshiva Bachana. You can't trust Yeshiva Bachana. So the Kitzur, one time, he was alone at home, and the girl passed by, and the Yitzhahara grabbed him, and he moved the ladder. The Gemara says that 10 people need to move, he moved it himself. That's how much Yitzhahara. And he was walking up the ladder, screaming, "Fire!" Never come running in. They saw which fire he talked about. So Rabbi, you're embarrassing us. Better you should be embarrassed in this world and the next world. I always like to say the Gemara here was imagine. Plus, it's hard to imagine that your own Rebbe. If the Gemara calls someone chassid, he had to be a big chassid. The Gemara says how the Yitzhahara could get to. He picked up a ladder that takes 10 people to move. He moved it himself. You know, the truth is that's the power of the Yitzhahara. I always tell us that we American people have an attitude, don't worry about the Yitzhahara. They forget the bracha, the soin, the zoin, arish to the Yitzhahara. We have to be honest. The Yitzhahara of sex is an incredible Yitzhahara. And if you marry, it doesn't make a difference. You have to be careful with all the halachas. Don't fool yourself.
How do you summarize this? What makes something is
Muktzeh, it has to, just because of its weight, that you don't want to put away, it doesn't make a difference. That's what the Rabbi says.
It makes a muktzeh
if it's also Kerish Macharisa. But just for the weight, if you have 10, the only way to pick up this ladder was 10 people to move it. It's not.
Is this saying it's not a keli?
Okay?
Is he saying it's not a keli?
Because it is a keli. No, it's not muktzeh because it is a keli.
It's not because it is a keli. A raw rock is not a keli. A raw wood is not a keli. But if you have a rock that is a keli, if you have a ladder which is a keli, even though this ladder takes literally 10 people to move, it's not muktzeh.
So this has to be.
This is not muktzeh.
It can never be muktzeh?
How could it be
The
muktzeh?
fact that it's kiss on kiss doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, if you can move it, right? So what? If it's movable, it's movable. I imagine it was moved in here.
What if it was allowed to live?
I'm sure the guy built it someplace else.
We finished building it here, but
Most of it was built here, outside. So this is movable.
What if it's not up to Lisa?
How is it not built?
So what if something big was?
Right,
That's
it's
the
not,
difference.
then it's like a sunkist.
So something that's not movable at all, even if it's called a keli,
Like
even if
mush.
keli shemalach leheter, it's still muktzeh.
Like, give me a mush, what do you mean?
I know something that's very heavy. I don't know.
That's what he's saying. Something very heavy takes 10 people. This guy's not that
not
heavy.
muktzeh.
I'm saying it's not movable at all.
Why? Why? It's too heavy.
It's not movable.
It's not movable, it's not muktzeh, it's not tilted.
A car?
Everything's movable.
Thank you. Muktzeh, you're not touch me. You can't move muktzeh. So if you can move it, that means it's movable.
That's right. Like a car is not muktzeh because you can't move it. You can lean on it.
Cars,
You
okay.
can lean on it because you're not.
Yeah, but you're not moving it. You're saying muktzeh is you can't even touch it. Like you can touch
You
it.
could lean it, you could sit on the
It's like
front.
moving. Not moving it from its place.
So, Rob, so what was the bottom line of the discussion here that the item that is very fragile and you would never move it, but it's not.
That's something else. Let's say you have
It's
something
not-
so fragile, you're not gonna move it because if it's expensive, that itself makes it muktzeh. You'll never move it if it's so fragile. But if it's not that way, just because it's too heavy, 10 people have to pick up, it's not muktzeh.
And you call that song kiss?
Right, that's called sunkist.
And how does that jive with the Alter Rebbe's clause
Because that's when because you would, it's something you don't want to even move. You
No, I understand, but why is that in the category of a song
Because
kiss?
there's not other kalim you move around. The question is, let's say iPhone, you move around all the time, right? The only reason you don't want to use it anything just for an iPhone. And if it's not usable, you put it away, right? But it gets moved around all day long. It's with you all day long. You move it around. So then we need chsar kiss. Just not enough kedish machta. If that would be a kedish machta leheter, and you move it wouldn't be a problem. Let's say the iPhone will only be a clock. Now just imagine. Expensive clock, and every time you want to check the time, you would to pull it out. And you wouldn't want anyone to touch it. But then it's cash not that, even though it's very expensive, you know, like someone mentioned last week, someone mentioned a guy has a $30,000 watch. Do you know $30,000?
Not here by you, not here.
Someone did mention he had there's such a thing as a $30,000 watch, or so it's not muktzeh. I'm sure a guy has such a watch doesn't let anyone touch it. Don't stare at it too much. But it's not muktzeh because even though it's extremely expensive, and it's probably he himself checks it 3 times, it's not scratched. But it doesn't make a difference. It's not a kedush makalis. So the Alter Rebbe holds not muktzeh. The R will disagree. R was something that's very expensive. Remember we spoke about on antiques, the thing that you have and put away in the closet. I told you, I mentioned a guy showed me he has a case. which is a few hundred years old. A becher case, and he doesn't use it ever. The only thing he uses it is to show off. Look what I got. Just about it. Doesn't use it. But the bottom line is not Muktzeh. It's a regular cup. Just interesting how it looks, but it's a regular cup. Nothing else.
So if, for example, if your car door lights, the engine's off, the lights are off, but the door's open. So by closing the door, you're not going to cause any electricity to move. Can you close your door on Shabbos?
It's a case after this. If you have a machine in place, you want to close it. See, the car, and let me explain this. The car, if you take the lights out, I was in Etzisol, and I saw, I was in Svas many years ago, and people camping out for the Rizal's Yotza many years ago. They were sleeping in the car over Shabbos. I think Sunday was the Yotza, I forgot. But they just noticed they unplugged that thing, and they were using the car. Again, they were slept in the car.
That's a mobile home. It's
It's perfectly okay. So then that Shabbos, the key is not a case of this. That Shabbos, when they
But the car itself is a Keli Shalata.
Yeah, but this Shabbos, they are going to sleep and eat them.
What's that? It's a Keli Shalata and it's a Ksar Kiss.
What is a Ksar Kiss?
I don't want anybody to mess
but
with
now this Shabbos, you're using it to live in it.
I am, but I wouldn't want anybody else.
So what? You don't want anyone to move in your house tonight. You don't want anyone in your bed.
All right.
So that just because you don't want us to make it. So this Shabbos, this car is, this Shabbos became, what is it called, the RV? It's called RV. This Shabbos, this car became an RV. Became an RV. So Mamela, if as long as the lights don't go out, so the key, that Shabbos we spoke last week, that key is not an occasion after this that Shabbos. It's a regular occasion after that. If you're going to use it, normally it's an occasion after this, so you can't open the car doors because the lights go on.
We concluded at the end that even a kid normally is
it's not the sun kiss. I agree, it's not the sun kiss, but it's occasion after this.
Correct. Here it's not even a condition after this.
This is very much the case. So, I've been asked this question more than once. You left the stroller in the car.
The light goes on.
So, it's told the shiksa to go out.
Right.
You left the stroller in the car. So you can give the key to the shiksa to get the stroller out of the car.
Why?
Can you tell her?
You can tell her it's a shvus to shvus.
One second, she's opening up a light. Opening up a
Yeah,
light.
she's
It's interaction.
It's a secretion. She's not interested in opening the light.
From the fridge.
Okay, very good.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so wie basic. Wir haben Kedish Nachtelisse, wir haben Departments of working on Kardoin, Nachtelboy. It's so hard for us to imagine this. We live in a society, we have a keli for everything. You know what I mean? I never saw anyone use a Kardon. Kardon is a, how do you say Kardon in English?
Hammer.
Use a hammer to open peanuts.
Most
Most people don't know how to crack up nuts and walnuts. We were growing up.
They never saw a clip of it. They never saw the walnut.
I'm serious. We grew up. It was a whole game. We used to play Pesach with the nuts.
To throw them.
Roll them. And it was a whole game. A whole Pesach with young people.
Still, the game still is.
You can't buy these nuts anymore. You have to pay twice as much to get nuts with the shells. So we have to appreciate it. We have to thank Hashem every day that we live in the 21st century. How lucky we are. We don't appreciate it. I always tell myself, I hope one day when I'm going to look back and say, boy, we should have thanked Hashem for the incredible comfort we have. But if you think about it, it's unbelievable. It really is. Kedish machte this again. Mit der Tat Menschen so du für Kigan Karl macht, wo wir dwele to cut the veil corners, the toy by Goism. Karl is a hatchet. God, I feel a list more by Kale Kurz. You not use Menschen with kein Moi if you need for the place. Aber Zürich a Kale Arts Moi, Kale Miller Mogishir Shayik Mishal. You have a hammer outside. You cannot pick up the hammer, bring it in.
If you want to protect the hammer.
Yes, if you're afraid that the hammer is going to get stolen, you can't bring in the hammer. So if you left your car keys outside and you don't want to lose it, better. You have young children and the car keys were left on the table. and you know, your 2-year-old might walk off with it, and you're not going to find it till Pesach cleaning, you can't put it away.
You can make it as a...
Well, the only thing you do is I
It's
say,
in
I'm
your
going
place.
to sit down here and learn, I'm going to learn that, but the
Same with the neighbor. If it's outside.
in your
In
home.
your house.
Oh, your house, yes.
The keys is a Kedish Lachtalissa. So you're in the house,
Car keys.
and which many of us leave on the table, right? And the 2-year-old just might walk off with it. That happened to you. Happened to me one time. My 2-year-old did walk off, because it took me a long time to find it. So it's Shabbos now. You cannot pick up the keys. It's a Kedish Lachtalissa. Are you going to get lose it? So what? You can do it with the shini. Or the best way that I was going to say in a minute, you could say, let's it's laying on the table. You have a right to say, I want to sit right here. That's my mishigas. It's a long table. I can sit anyplace, but I want to sit right here. Now, I want to learn. The keys bother me. I'm allowed to pick it up. Once you pick it up, you can put it away. So
Yes.
okay. You follow?
So I
So
can do
means
that.
even though I have the keys, because if you need the keys to scratch your head, or you want the place. So right now, I just want to put it away. So I could create a tzedek. I mean, you're allowed to do that. Like a chibur. Say, I want to sit down and learn. Even though I could sit here and I could sit there. This is, see, the Torah gives us a right to be crazy, believe it or not. The Torah gives us a right. Person's allowed to be crazy, allowed to be. So this is what I would want to do.
So if your hammer's outside and you decide I'm going to go learn outside right now, even though it's raining.
Well, that's it.
Or you make a use for the hammer. You want to use the hammer for something. Till we know.
Shells, Muktzeh Shabbos.
Are you under him?
Is there a thing about shells being Muktzeh Shabbos?
Shells is Muktzeh Shabbos. That's what the Rav says in the Siddur.
So how do you use a hammer? to
That's a
open up
separate issue. That's a separate issue. I use the hammer. I'm allowed to peel it off. But once I put it down, I can't pick it up. That's a separate issue. One of the reasons the place Chassidim did not eat on Shabbos is for that reason, because you're allowed to take the shell off, but as soon as you put it down, that is Muktzeh machmas gufa.
So just throw it in garbage.
Well, but you know, it used to be, you guys don't remember, it used to be, but Shamzochas, they used to have peanuts.
Pistachios.
You go to the
Pistachio,
Ula, they
yeah.
eat these nuts and everything.
And the problem was that, you know, you peel it, and people would sit there bored. You know, when you're bored, you got to do something with your fingers, so people would start playing with the shell of the nuts. I came to my shul, I said, no more peanuts. So people were doing, playing with the shells. It's mamash muktzeh.
But you can move it if you need it.
No.
Why do you already have a actual day?
No. The shell of a nut is Muktzeh machmas gufa. It is totally worth nothing.
It's not a case.
It's not a case. Same thing with if you are making ayah, many people make eggs and onions on Shabbos. If you have that many, probably should still do it. So if you make a Shabbos, you got to peel the eggs right into the garbage, because the peel of an egg is muktzeh. It's nothing. So you got it has nothing to it. There's
If you
nothing.
put it into a plate that has,
A piece of bread, you have something, then you can pick up the plate, and otherwise the bread. That's why I tell people the reason why they used to make this a Hasidic shimon, they used to make the eggs and the onions right before the meal. You know why they did it? Because there was no fridge. If you make onions, I would sleep out of Shabbos till it gets them tomorrow lunch is not going to be good. Well, I tell my wife to make it there Shabbos, and it's good, and it's geschmack, and rather than eat eggs with onions, they don't have that.
I'm a Polish. The Polish is still eat.
No.
The Russians. They couldn't afford the eggs. They had the onions. They had not the eggs.
You know what you're saying? It's not a joke. Many people don't understand that you're not allowed to make Kiddush on Mashke. Kiddush on Mashke was done in Russia because they had no wine.
Shabbos day. Shabbos day.
I'm just saying that, you know, there are someone, Rabbi showed me, what's his name? Rabbi showed me a letter from the Rabbi, but they not to make Kiddush on Shabbos. Because the reason, according to the Shiurim, it's very clear, wine is more mohided.
There's going to be 1,000 hits on this video.
Good. Why don't you check it? I made sure it many years ago, but today there's a search engine, check the Igris. He showed me once a letter from the Bible, check I was saying, not to make Kiddush on
What if you have two bottles in front of you? A cheap bottle of wine or a very expensive?
wine is always mochash. Wine is wine.
Not today.
But isn't that
Wine
a
is shidduch because it's halacha. Right. I mean, that's true. You could have but you could have expensive wine too. You know.
No, of course.
But it's true to have people.
$3.99 bottles?
But I mean, and my in a wealthy shul. So for Kiddush, when the wealthy people break for Kiddush, they bring this $180 small bottle of vodka, not vodka, the mashke that's 20 years standing and who knows what. But the truth is that wine is always very chashuv. That's the Torah gave us the chashivas. The reason you can make Kiddush on that, because if there's no wine, it says, let me explain quickly since we brought it up. Yain, you can make, the Gemara talks about making Kiddush on beer. You know, the times of the Gemara there was no yash. Mashke didn't exist. The times of the Mishnah, beer did not exist neither. People don't know history. In the Mishnah, it's never mentioned beer. Beer is first mentioned in the Gemara. So the Machlokes historians, some say it was invented in Bovel, and some say it was invented in Egypt. Mashke was done much later. You only find the name Mashke after this Yosef. Much after this Yosef. It was really called a poor man's wine. There was in Europe, in Russia, before the Albedo, it was impossible to make Kiddush on anything. The grapes didn't grow there, it was freezing cold. Grapes cannot grow in such cold weather. So, you know, they couldn't afford to schlep wine all the way there. So they made Kiddush, so the poor people invented an alcohol. You know, you gotta get drunk a little bit once in a while. So the alcohol was, it's a horrible taste. If you know, something you gotta get used to it. You know, if you're not Lubavitcher, most young people don't drink.
Where's the market to make
Yain
this?
v'shecher, the Torah will say yain v'shecher al teish v'al-koyin.
I'll tell you in a minute, what?
What's it going to tell you? Yain v'shecher al
Shecher
teish.
means old wine. Shecher doesn't mean beer. So let me just finish. So this is why. So it's not. So the Machlokes of the Rishonim. Some of the Rishonim hold that only time you can make on beer on yash is only when wine is not available. If wine is available, aros.
Yeah, but there's no more wine in Bishul for Shabbos. It's not there.
The second that the Shecher holds that even if you have wine, but if the beer and it's very chashuv and people are machshav it, you could still.
What about grape juice?
Grape juice is wine.
Wine.
So he asked, why do Hungarians make on a schnapps cup a kiddush? That comes from a Taz. The Taz has a big kiddush in Hilchos Berachos and Hanan. The Taz holds that since schnapps, the din is you have to make a bari nefoshes on a revis. No revis, let's say a revis is about 4 ounces, the average sheet. If you have to make a bari nefoshes, you have to have 4 ounces. The Taz was machadish that schnapps 1 ounce is kosher is like 4 ounces. So he held you have to make a bari nefoshes on 1 ounce. So the Polish Chassidim said if you have to make if it's considered a revius to make a bari nefoshes, it's considered a revius to make kiddush. But the Rav argues on the Taz and Hilchos Berachos and Hanan. And that's why the Chabad does it, the Mishnah also. I told
Chabad makes it, but on a revius.
What I'm saying, sir, what I'm saying. Why? Because the Rav argues on the scripture on the Taz. He says it doesn't make a difference. Chazal said lo yipli. It has to be a revius, no matter what, wine. So when the Litvish should do kiddush sometimes on the Shmuel, I don't understand. You follow the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah argues on the Taz. So according to Mishnah Berurah, if you want to make kiddush or schnapps, it's got to be a full cup, like the Chabad. But halacha, the wine you should make kiddush on wine.
So if they have to drink at least an ounce?
You have to drink them on the leg of an ounce. That's the good cheekful.
At least.
Nothing to do with the ounce. That's the
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the person. It has to be a cheekful.
A little cup is a cheap one.
But if they hold it, it doesn't have to be cheekful. It's a whole of these. They hold this cup, an ounce, has the cheshivas like a whole of these. That's because you hold like the Tauber. If you don't know like the Taz, so if you make a kiddush on thing, you have to make sure to drink a cheekful.
According to them, they have to drink at least an ounce.
You have to drink an ounce.
The Rebbe Paskins that Kiddush has to be made l'chatchila on wine that's not levushal. Just to know.
Well, the Chavos says, yeah. But I tell people, don't keep not Mavusha wine at home.
Because we can't trade. Yeah, something else.
Yeah, the shiksas, and that's
Right.
comes to be problems.
So beer that has some grapes in it, is it that the primary ingredient's grapes, or that you say there's some beers they make with I guess grape or possesses some wine or
Cognac.
cognac, for example.
Cognac.
Is that okay? Is that considered the same thing as wine?
Wine.
But it possesses, it's made from
You
grapes.
make a shot, you don't make a very big whip.
You make a shot.
Cognac can make one very big oven, doesn't it? Cognac is all grapes.
You make a very often, that's a block.
Cognac.
I never drink it.
What about pork?
And what?
Same thing.
Port.
Port.
And what's the point?
It's a Portuguese kind of wine that has brandy.
Well, but it depends how much percentages of wine, how much is.
It all depends on the growth. Meaning Japanese wine, which is made of rice, is the same thing as beer or other alcohol.
It depends how much wine and how much is the beer. That's I have to know the.
What is it, Rose?
No, and Shulchan says that water depends on the type of mashkin. If it has to be, I think the Mahabha says wine has to be right. If it's against another mashkin, has to be a majority. Best thing is good wine. Big kiddush on good wine. Today they believe the wine is healthier than mashkin. Okay. I want to say a quick thought of mine, living in LA over here, hanging out in LA. I claim why certain circles, why, addiction to alcohol was, and when I grew up, it's very rare that some people, not because we don't have the same shikas. I always tell people, there's no prejudice, there's craziness and issues, we all have. But the thing is that we grew up, wine was a sacred thing. I remember wine, the kiddush, by the bris, under the chuppah. It was I grew up as a feeling wine was a choshev azach. And I realized when we moved there, when people grew up in the secular, wine was a way to get drunk. The wine was sort of more aggressive. Us, wine, we grew up, you made kiddush on it. It had a certain cheshivas in the eyes of the person. Okay. So the kids, if you have a hammer outside, you're not allowed to move it, and you're not allowed to even Shiurim or anything, you're not allowed to move it to save it. He says, I would say that ask when she came in the movie she higna misham or shelipi yeshuv shum break or shimun b'chama vir she is shum reaction waits that the Tauber shall look at itself or goes to you're not allowed to. It says the Rav and manchu will ishtamul b'tash will look at but if you decide, let me use this hammer to break open nuts, or shemach ishtamul etamukim zeh shekeli minich sham mitalet kaltamukim zeh, you're allowed to move it away. So we explained, let's say you left on the table the keli shalach talisa, the keys, the car keys. So you're allowed to say, I'm going to sit on the road here, I don't want it to be break. You're allowed to make this orna. Orna means a trick. So that means, I have the key, I can't move it away. But I'm afraid the children will walk off and we'll get lost on shots. I'm allowed to sit down here, say I want to learn for 5 minutes, so maybe to pick up the key and put it away. Okay?
Is that just, let's say you have, like you were saying before, like an expensive iPhone or something on the table, instead of the keys. Can you use the same trick?
No, because that's Chasson kiss. The Chasson kiss is much more common. That means Chasson kiss doesn't help that you want the place. So the only way to tell the iPhone is back of your hand with the shimmy.
If Rabbi Zain said his keys are concerned kiss, then he holds about a.
That was Benny, that wasn't mine.
Oh, sorry.
My car, even my car is not Sun Kiss. How about my keys are not Sun Kiss?
No, but it came out last week at the end that people explained to it. Some people, even your expensive keys, messenger, will scratch your head with it.
So it's Sun Kiss, no?
It's not some kiss.
It's $200 to replace my key.
Yeah, so it does make a difference. But do you take out your key to scratch yourself? Would you do that? I've seen people with the thick key.
So what if
You use it to pop open a drawer.
What do you say?
The answer would be no.
Yeah, but most people would.
Not my key, his key.
Most people would.
Okay, so we go by the major.
I afterwards driving on my own, I thought I was expensive car.
And it is, it's not keys.
But it's not, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so once you pick it up, you have to throw it away. I pick up the key, so I don't have to say, I pick up the key and I'll throw it away. Once you have the key in your hand, I'll put it away wherever you want. Since I had a right to pick it up, because I need a place, so I picked up the key.
Because you have a right. I think even if you don't have a right.
Well, this was seen in that's my place. But once I had a right to pick it up, I could put it any place I want. That's what he's saying. And the Rav says there is opinion. By mistake, you picked up Muktzeh Gomer. The shul Tauber chomu geschieht zu ish kari b'yudoi. So the others stretched this. Not only a ken shmachtaret which I was allowed to pick up. Let's say by mistake you picked up your iPhone. You picked it up. Oh, it's Shabbos. Once it's in your hand, this opinion holds you out. You take it and walk to your bedroom and put it away high up in the closet.
You took it by mistake.
If you pick it by mistake. Yes, you show you some Muktzeh Gomer. So the Rabbi brings them a chlokes. So he says they should only be mekel and mukim hefset. So I imagine your iPhone, if you picked it up, you don't want the children to get to it. If by mistake you picked it up, you don't put it away. But if it's not a hefset, then don't drop it. But later on, the Purush in Shecharot, where we mamish in Shecharot, that's a kasha where he asks all the Chayim asks. Says later in Shecharot, he's walking into. You realize you have a wallet. In the good old days, the wallet was hanging. And you're walking into the house, and you realize your pouch and money is hanging here. So that's also you carrying it. That's tiltal. So Shecharot says over there, you walk to you should undo it, let it drop wherever it is. So why? Once you have it, the one you can't go. So they have to bring it higher. From there, it's one of the kashas they bring from there. We'll see later how they try to answer it. And sure.
Maybe money is not good for you.
So again, so if you picked up something that's muktzeh, not like iPhone, so it's a machlokes, if it's in your hand, you're allowed to put it wherever you want. So the Rav said if it's a very expensive item, you can be saying chalakula to once you have it in your hand to put it away. But it's not such an expensive item, drop it. That's what he says.
Something that you have to move with the shiurim.
It's okay, you have to move with the shiurim. The talking to be picked it up with your hand. I picked this up by my hand, which is Muktzeh now. Now realize it's Shabbos.
No, I'm not saying that if you have to move things to the shiurim and you put it in, if you drop it into something else, like into a cup or a plate or something. You can't do that. So
I could imagine someone walking to shul forgets to take out his iPhone. I haven't no one asked me this, but I could imagine sooner or later these phones are going to come lighter and lighter. No one ever believed that. If you remember the first time I say, I gave a sheet 20 years ago in the valley. So I asked the guy, what do you do? He works for one of these motor company. What do you do? He says, one day you're going to have a small phone. You'll be talking now. Rabbi, I'm working now and you'll see. I couldn't believe it. Everyone's going to have a separate phone in their pocket. And, who believed it? One day this iPhone becomes so light, it'll be like a credit card, and that's what they predict. And I can imagine guys walking to shul, what's this soft thing over here? It's my whole iPhone. I can imagine. So that question is, going to this out, it's an expensive thing, so you're allowed to keep on walking and take it out. And there we're going to see a big machlokes in the Elchonon. See, that's also called tiltal in your pocket. And then you hold that this cooler was only said that if you have it in your hand, but in your pocket, you're not allowed to take it out of your pocket and not move it away. So just, shake it out. You understand? Even though that's also called tiltal.
you move to where you want to shake it out.
Well, that's pointed it out. Yes, pointed it out. It's a very expensive. Move to someplace where you want it to go. A credit card will be that way. Credit card is a certain case. It's expensive. So you find that it's in your pocket, so you're not allowed to go some.
I scratch my head.
Not that. Well, you don't want
people think I'm a lot of
You don't want down pedal? Maybe you're right, maybe.
Use a credit card to open a door.
No, but it is possible it's like money. But not sure, we spoke about this, not sure, credit card might be like cash.
Let's say a gift card,
Yeah, but let's just say credit card, it's.
So cash is the worst thing for some reason. Credit card
Cash,
is
credit card should be that way too. It just happened, I remember, I remember something vaguely, someone told me he left his credit card in his pockets.
So there's to shake it out as a mother making, there's no question.
Yeah. Questions now that you have in your pocket, can I pick it up?
Consider it as if you have it in your hand.
So you can have at the kol Muktzeh, Eilu Sele Tiltul. This is a very important Halacha. Many people are confused. Aber mit der Liga bei Beyuda, you're allowed to touch Muktzeh. So you're allowed to touch a car.
You're allowed to touch a door.
You're allowed even pat a door. That's a separate pat it. You're not even.
You can't move it.
You can't move it. It's a bavadshali inana filamiksusa, even part of it. That means you're allowed to touch Muktzeh, but you can't even move part of the Muktzeh.
So the car move.
What?
Car is
That's if you move it with your hands. If it's.
if you lean on a car.
You're allowed to lean on the car.
Is that
because
good
that's
moving?
still
That
the
was
good
moving.
foot. That's
The wheels
still
didn't
the
move
good
it. The wheels didn't move
but
it.
a vehicle, it's
No, but that's the reason you're not a sin on a car because that's called tutul the good foot. But if you want to move the car, you know,
It's your hands.
your hands. We were young boys, and the teacher came with a Volkswagen. I was second teacher. I was the
So
sixth
you get
grade.
visitors, right?
We picked up the whole car and moved it down the block. Sixth graders.
Only in Williamsburg.
Okay. Rabbi says, "Geen witte liggen we beneden, je laat touchen beneden, je net boten zullen, in ene klier waren, want je waar sham. Laat touch the leichter. Maar met tani bezig gooien, je laat touch is toch in de je laat touch de oven. Geen witte liggen door het en min gaat doen Muktzeh. Je moet je waar sham, they learn take a hat for the staying in Muktzeh. We later learn even if the Muktzeh moves. We'll later get to details. Degene niet gaat gabo, was to put on top of it, I'll put something on it. The kids say you're allowed to sit on a car.
Unless the lights, alarm.
That's it. No alarm, just you're allowed to sit on a car. This is one of the things with young boys. They're allowed to sit in the car, and move the car. Even though for sure the car is going to move. That's still to be goofy, you're allowed to sit in it. Don't move it with your hands. You're allowed to touch the thing, but if you want to get onto the car, and by if you push it down, you jump on the car. So by pushing down, it's going to move. That you shouldn't do. But you're allowed to just jump on the car and sit. You're allowed to have a nuah. Muktzeh, you're allowed to derive a benefit from Muktzeh. It's nothing wrong. But don't do something to the Muktzeh itself, he says. I want to explain this because it's not so much negeya. You're not allowed to light Muktzeh Yom Tov. If you have wood that's Muktzeh, you can't light it in Yom Tov, even though you're not metaltal it. But since you're making a fire with that Muktzeh wood, that's called you're using it. That's a special.
That's something it's hano. You gotta have an
Yeah, but it's you being used. It's a very difficult halacha to explain. You're allowed to use wood to make firewood, which you use. Let's say you have wood, but it's not made for firewood. So it's Muktzeh. So you can't even burn it. That's a special halacha. The kids say you're allowed to touch Muktzeh, you're allowed to sit on Muktzeh, you're allowed to move the back of your arm. That's only possible. Trying to figure out, because again, we are very lucky. We don't have so many Muktzeh things around, honestly. But I say this to everyone, that if you do put away your so you should have a Muktzeh drawer. Many people put it into the drawer which they can open up. If you have an iPhone, you should put it into a place where all the Muktzeh things is. We grew up this way, the Muktzeh drawer.
When you open the drawer, you're not moving the iPhone, you're moving the drawer.
The buses we get to later. That becomes a buses. If you have a drawer, where I told the boys in Jets, they have a drawer, so if they open the drawer and they put the iPhone in, the whole drawer becomes Muktzeh.
Unless there's something else very chashuv that's not.
So they were arguing, they want the underwear. So I asked them this question. If you have a choice, which one to lose, the underwear or the iPhone? What do you want to lose? I'll say, they want to lose the iPhone. Teenagers for sure not. Okay. says, Kol Muktzeh Yosef, Ele Taltel Ketarke B'chol, and if you have a Mitte Taltel B'gufoi, which was Yoshiran B'taltel B'kibari, then he can took Lachayat, Shishini B'derech Chol. Nachei, Mitte Taltel B'kibari, B'fnoiser Kangen Derech Haluchoi. I want to say something very important, that many misquote this Rav. You know, most people have heard that you're allowed to be metaltal by kicking around Muktzeh. You heard this expression? The Rav says you're not allowed to do that. The Rav says you're only allowed to kick Muktzeh if you dare. I explained it last week. While you're walking. That means the Mishnah Buddha says you're allowed to kick Muktzeh. That you're allowed to go like this. According to the Rav, if I have something I don't want to kick to the side, this happens with whatever the situation is. So Mamela, I want to walk this way, and there's a Muktzeh there, I have to aim to walk, and as a walking path, it's allowed to be kicked away, even though that's my intention. But just to go like this, you're not allowed to.
Why is that? Because it's like a
Because it is called tiltul, it's not total klachiyat, so that's what's sort of into the That means, I say klachiyat in English.
Other side of the hand.
What the
The word klachiyat means with your right to the back of your hand.
So this could be klachiyat.
Yeah.
What could not be? I mean, this could be.
It's also klachiyat. Anything that's not normal is
Like
klachiyat.
doing, for example, holding something like
Once
that.
you open your fingers, some people doubt it that way, but back of your hand. Now I want to reiterate this. I looked it up because we were all shocked about baby toys. Even if the baby, if you have children who play with the toys, no matter how Muktzeh it is, then it's not Muktzeh because it's made for the children, they are allowed to play with it. So if you hold block is also, I don't know what it means, but let's say these blocks, block is also, but you have young children who play with it, so maybe it's not Muktzeh or
Even
the
for
battery.
An electric mobile on a crib.
Rabbi Tauber said an electric mobile, and it's like a lamp, you can touch it, it's not
It works the whole time.
No, it doesn't work, but the kid could turn it on himself.
The kid could turn on himself.
Right, you hit it, there's a button or whatever, as an example.
Yeah, same thing.
I mean, what if they can't turn it on? So let's say they can't turn it on, can I move
It's
the...
made now, if it's not made for the child to put on, it's made for you to turn on, then it's a catch not for this.
So if it's attached to the crib, can I move the crib?
Yes, because it doesn't, the crib, the main is the crib. Because in the Shachar, they used to hang a lamp on the door, you know that? And I'll open the door. It's not Muktzeh.
Fire
But
truck.
what we talked about last week, many of you asked, the children toys. You know, the children has a battery car, whatever, all these lights go on. So since for adult it's Muktzeh, but it's not made for you. Maybe many of us would like to play with it, but it's not made for us. So I'm just saying, so the toy is made for the children are allowed to play with it, so you're allowed to pick it up and put it away. This is one of the frustrating things every Shabbos, if you have young children. Toys are, your wife wants them to put it away.
I get this, it's circle, because the reason I don't let the kids play with it because it's Muktzeh. But if I would let them play with it, it wouldn't be Muktzeh, so not to let them play with it would be silly. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
It has to be an age before chinuch.
Whatever age you
Let's
decide.
say I never let them play any Muktzeh. I don't care. Baby, I don't let. Don't touch.
What do you know? You don't
I put it away. I put it. No,
So then it's Muktzeh, but then in your house it's Muktzeh. Because since you
I
don't
don't understand the
allow...
logic. How would I let him? It's a Muktzeh thing. I
It's
let
not
him, and
Muktzeh.
then it becomes a Muktzeh
No.
because I let him.
It's not, if that toy is made for the child, so it's not Muktzeh.
It's in the toy box and you don't really care if they play
It's
with
only
it.
allowed because I let him. You understand?
Right.
The Muktzeh goes away because I let him.
No.
I
Muktzeh
got
goes
it.
away.
I got it. That's allowed because he's not my mitzvah.
No, it's Muktzeh because it was made to be used for Shabbos.
No, and he's right, but it depends. If the child is allowed to play with it, then it's not Muktzeh. But if he's makbid, he doesn't let any of the children play with it, then his house, he's the boss, then your house, all those toys are Muktzeh.
What is it? 5?
The pillow, and it's 6. But
You have to know what 6 means. 6 is because 6
5
is
in a
more.
day, 5 in a day. But my wife is from her, she didn't let those, so don't worry. She made him make brachas by 2 years old too. But the part of I let them play with toys. Well, it depends. I let them play with certain toys. It's not everything is gilach, you can't play. Blocks 11 places. It's a big machloek. Some hold that it's not a problem. Oh, it's building. It's a building. It's a
Legos
Legos.
are the same problem.
Lego, whatever it was. Yeah. So I don't know. I personally hope it's not us, but it's also somebody who's mamish.
It's not also for everybody?
For anyone to
If you build it, you take it apart.
It's made to take apart. But there are many ways that it was a screen that it's us. So I never made a fuss. Told the children were bar mitzvah, I didn't play with it. Once about mitzvah, but not play with it. Only because that's so many hope that it's mamish is so long because
But again, if it's not Muktzeh,
then you can play with it away.
can you build? If it's not Muktzeh, can you
It
build
depends,
it?
you know. If you go hold that, I was machman not to do it, so.
Ages 3 and up.
Depends what, you know, which age you decide to become. Make it aloha, chanech is only at 6. You decide, now like he says, he doesn't let his 2-year-old play with it. Okay.
Okay, now, if a 4-year-old goes into the bathroom and turns on the light, that's Muktzeh though.
No.
That's not Muktzeh. That's the same, I hold the same thing.
Why do you mean Muktzeh? What do you mean Muktzeh?
No, I think he's asking, can you take your 4-year-old and
No,
put them
no.
to the
Say she went into the bathroom and she turned on the light.
It's not Muktzeh.
It's not Muktzeh.
You violated Shabbos, you didn't do Muktzeh.
You don't tell her that that's Muktzeh?
Well, depends what time you it's a year to
That's the word Muktzeh.
It's not the word Muktzeh, you need to say, tell her not to open the light. Some 4-year-olds gets it, some 4-year-olds don't get it. So up here, Halacha, you don't have to teach them, but people think, but teach them at an early age. So of course, you know,
If the kid, you say.
you know why people let me explain something practical. Why people teach children young, it's going to be very odd. They're going to turn the lights on and off, and you can't, and they could. So most people feel like, you're 4 years old, it's Muktzeh, don't do it. And Halacha, I agree, I never let the children put on the lights, never told them to put the lights, but the toys, I felt this way, don't drive my wife nuts, don't play with the toys. Especially Chabad, you don't use the aid if your wife is in prison all Shabbos at home. It's very hard. But you live in this neighborhood, so if you can't go, if you don't sign on the aid, it's very hard for them. Mom shouldn't do it all Shabbos. Remember, we didn't have aid when we were children were young. It was very hard. Imagine tell the children, can't play with this, can't play with this, can't play with this.
That's when they said to make it the Shamash for the kid.
And give all the kids.
Okay. Keli Shanachta, and I want to explain that introduction to Keli Shanachta Leheta. Really nowadays, it's almost not negated. Because we have Kalim for everything. The question, let me explain this briefly. Originally the Chazal, in times of I mentioned this, in the times of Yirmiyah, they asked Muktzeh everything. Why? Because people were carrying Shabbos. Carrying became hefker. But carrying is a malacha gerua. People don't realize it's a malacha because the Rabbi says a very interesting explanation in the beginning of Masechta Shabbos. He says every malacha in Shabbos, when you do something, you create something. If I plow, I change something with the ground. I put seeds into the ground, change something with the ground. I cooked something, I changed something. I cut off the wool of an animal, I changed something. If I bring this inside the house, outside, I think this stayed this. The question was here or there. That's called a maleches gerua. People did not think it was a malacha. Very, very. And Tosis says, interesting Tosis Masechta Shabbos. Tosis says that in Mora, Shabbos was taught in Mora. You know that. Mora was before Matan Torah. It was the place called Mora. The water was bitter, so the Rebbeinu gave a few mitzvahs to colleagues. So one of the mitzvahs was Shabbos. Tosis says at Suah was not given. Only 38 malachim, not 39. Suah was the red carrying. So we say it's a malacha gerua. So anyway, so the Chazal across the board asked all kelim not to be done, even a fork, only if you have a need. So you pick up the fork Shabbos, you have to have an even an apple. You just can't, touch the apple, go like this. No, don't touch anything. Then Chazal saw that finally Atzur became, people start to keep carrying, not to carry, so they eased the Gzeiler. So they said, Keishon Abdel Heter is mitter even, so there's a question nowadays, is what is called the Keishon Abdel that's in the category. Well, I'll get to it next week, but I need to explain this. Just stop a little bit.
I have this problem.
I can kick it all the way.